Welcome to everybody who's listening to us on YouTube. Welcome to everybody who's in the room. Welcome to those of you at Tessl. Welcome to those of you who I know are living, sitting on a sofa somewhere in the world, to this LJC event, vJUG event.
LJC and vJUG.
LJC and vJUG.
So anyone watching online, welcome to vJUG Connect. I'm Sam. I'm one of the vJUG hosts. We'll have two amazing speakers here today, but you're not just watching, you can ask questions. So if you ask any questions in the, YouTube chat, myself and Steve will get it over to the speakers, and we'll try to get as many of them answered. If they're not answered, just go on to the Slack channel and we'll get the community as well as the speakers to answer them as well. But we'll do live questions here. If you're watching from anywhere in the world and you want us to live stream your local Java user group, just let us know. We live stream everywhere in the world. And then our next two vJUG only events are coming up. We've got Ben Evans at the end of this month, and then Emily Yang early, March. And those are fully remote sessions. So join us for that. It's all on the Luma, as well as our new fancy, shiny virtual JUG website that I created, vibe coded, woo, go AI. And yeah, so that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Alan to talk a little about Tessl. But anyone live, ask your questions in the chat. Anyone in the human audience, you just have to put your hand up. Very simple. And over to Alan.
If you're not human, your questions are not wanted. Well, maybe they are.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
And over to Alan.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. I have only one slide that addresses the people in the room. The rest are appropriate to everyone. If you have a camera with a QR code, facility. I sound like a grandpa. If you have a camera phone, you might need it in a sec. So, welcome. This is our office where we work. I'm Alan, that was Sam. We work next door, and we love having people join us here in their communities and learning about what they're doing and presenting them their awesome new stuff. While you're here, you may want to ask questions. If someone remote wants to ask a question, I'm only going to be here for a couple of minutes. You're not really here to see me. You're here to see the other speakers. And so I will get off the stage very quickly. But if you do want to ask me any questions, that's my LinkedIn. Take a photo of that and you can ask me a question, connect. But I won't keep you long. The slide for the people in the room is this one. The Wi-Fi is dotted around the place on the QR codes you can see here. And the bathrooms are out the door you came in, past the elevators / lifts, to the bathroom, gents on the right, ladies on the left, and the other one in the far corner. We don't have any fire alarm tests planned, I think. So if the fire alarm does go off, don't panic, just follow us. We'll go outside, have a nice stroll. Might even live stream it. Okay, so within Tessl, we like to spread all the good news about what's going on in the AI native community. We have a website, ainativedev.io. There's a lot of news articles there about what's going on in the world of AI software development, agentic software development, and also updates about stuff that's going on with Tessl's products and partners and other stuff that's going on. We also have a very popular podcast that's published there. You'll find that in video and audio form. And we also have events. And we have an event coming up very soon. We had an AI native DevCon in New York, which was amazing. And we're having another one in London, 1st and 2nd of June. And this is the QR code you need because exclusive to you wonderful people is a 30% off ticket to AI native DevCon. If you use either the code vJUG30 or scan that QR code, it'll take you straight there. If you just go to tessl.io/devcon, loads of talks from some amazing people and familiar face on the screen there from New York. Maybe we'll get him again for this one. So it's really excellent, really, really content rich, loads of smart people giving great talks, loads of opportunities for networking. It's really, really good fun and quite intense amount of information you'll get. So yeah, look forward to seeing you all there on 1st and 2nd of June here in London. Now, I just want to give a brief introduction to something called Skills, which is so hot right now. What I'll do is just do a quick demo. So Tessl has the capability to share knowledge to your coding agents. If you have Tessl installed, you can supplement the information that the LLM that powers your agent has, and you can supplement that with what we call tiles. And those tiles contain context, knowledge, documentation, and skills. And we have a registry, which you'll find if you just go to tessl.io/registry. And in here, you'll find packaged up some skills that will augment that information that your AI agent already has. So that might be new processes, documentation for new libraries that the LLM doesn't know about, or new versions of existing libraries that the LLM already knows about. And this documentation, you can browse directly on the website. You can see it, clear text. It's markdown files, as you've probably seen before. If I do a quick search for Java in here, I'll just go to tessl.io/registry, search for Java. There's probably one down here called Java Quality Gate that I published an hour or so ago. And so this is a skill packaged and published on the Tessl registry. It's markdown files, right? Down here, we have a skill, and this skill is called Java Quality Gate. I made it with the idea of making it easy to block myself from my own stupidity of pushing duff code into Git repos. I wanted to have a thing that would gate my own stupidity and the collective stupidity of the AI agent that I'm using in case it makes any like poor coding decisions. And so I created this little thing as a demo, and I can show you it here. I've grabbed the Pet Clinic repo, and you can see the familiar files that you would recognize from that Pet Clinic Spring demo. And that's the README. I'm just zipping through this because you may well have seen this before. And I've had something create some bad code in this repository. Now, if I now use Tessl on the command line, I've already installed Tessl, and I just do Tessl search, and I put in Java, it will show a whole load of tiles in the registry, and I can pick one conveniently right at the top. And if I install that, it will bring down those markdown files, that text documentation, store it in my repo here, and modify some files that the agents will use, popular agents like Claude, Cursor, Gemini, and so on, to point them to those files to give them supplemental information when they're running. And I can show you an example of that. So over here, if I run Claude in that directory where all that software is, and those markdown files, and that bad bit of code that I showed you earlier, if I say /skills, you can see project skills here has been loaded. Or I just downloaded it by doing Tessl search and then effectively Tessl install my skill. Now, if I say, hey, I've written this awesome piece of code, commit that piece of code to Git. What Claude now knows is there's a skill that says, I need to run the Java Quality Gate. So it knows that it has to do this because I gave it a skill and a rule, and those two pieces of documentation will detail what I think that should be checked in this piece of amazing code that I or an AI wrote. And so this is just a really simple example of how you can use a little bit of Markdown in order to supplement the knowledge that your AI agent has. And if you have knowledge, maybe that's institutional knowledge or your own experience over the years, you can codify that in a piece of plain Markdown, test it locally, and then publish it into the registry, either privately just for you or for a group of developers, or you could publish it publicly like I did. And then other people can reuse those skills in order to level up their coding experience with agents. So I'm not going to go through making Claude fix all of this, but I could just press enter and say, you need to go and fix those things. And that's basically skills in a nutshell. I don't want to take up any more of your time. If you have any questions, come and find me. Or, like I said, you could connect to me on LinkedIn, which is there. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening. I will take up no more of your time. Thanks.
Careful the
We're now going to corner.
and for vJUG, we'll be live now.
Ah,
Make sure you come up on the screen.
Oh. Did I share my screen?
No, let's double check you've got screen on.
Yay! Oh,
So I don't need to turn on audio and video?
I have no idea.
No, I just need the screen, not the audio.
Are we good?
I just need Josh to share a screen. Yeah.
Allow to share screen. I said allow to share screen. What's making
for do it? Just so it's allowed.
No, yeah. All right. Is that going? Is that doing the thing? You have to add it, or can I add it?
No, I am on my side. You just minimize this.
Oh.
And you carry on with all your business.
Are we good?
We're good. I can see
Good.
everything.
Well, you've got the microphone, so I will let you introduce yourself and
Well, thank you, my friend. Good to see you.
have it away.
Cheers. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh. It's lovely to be here today. How you doing? Before we get underway, would you accept my GDPR cookies and take a selfie with me? Okay, here we go. Just pretend like you're happy, okay? Ready, steady. Wait, come on, you stupid phone. Go. No, come on. So terrible. Yeah, don't. No, that's not gonna work. Here, there we go. Yeah, okay. Ready, steady. Say open source. Open source. Oh. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate that. People ask me all the time, why take photos? Why? And I tell them, I'm going to take these photos, I'm going to show them to my daughter, and I'm going to say, see, they listen to me. Anyway, my name is Josh. I work on the Spring team in my capacity as a Spring developer advocate. I'm super happy to be here. I'm very online, and in that regard, this is the most important slide you're going to see from me in the next 45 odd minutes, because it's the only slide. And so there's that. Take a screenshot of the screen just for your own edification for later. There will be code here. There's no code there right now because give us some time. We'll fix that, right? Okay. Everybody good? Moving on. Look, I want to build some software to demonstrate the latest and greatest in the wide and wonderful world of Spring AI. But obviously, it's useful to have something to motivate what we're doing. And I always like to think about animals. And obviously, if you know anything about the Spring ecosystem, there's the ye old Spring Pet Clinic, a sample application from the distant past, which is an application that is, I think, all well and good. It's well entrenched. People know it. It's out there. We could certainly look at it. Here's the original Git repository that's been there for something like 20 odd years. So if I go there now, wait for the Wi-Fi to do the thing. All right, and you can see it's maintained, right? It's here. It was updated as recently as 2 days ago. And this has in turn inspired a whole organization full of Spring Pet Clinici, whatever. And so there's different permutations of this. And I thought, well, that's too much. We don't have nearly enough time. But I do love animals. I do love animals a lot. And I love, I like the idea that we build something to help adopt animals, even the really bad ones. And when I think of bad animals, I think of this one right here. This is a dog that went viral back in April of 2021 when this dog's named Prancer, by the way, this dog's owner sought to rehouse this dog with this now viral, very, very funny ad. And she describes this dog. She says, okay, I've tried for the last several months to post this dog for adoption and make him seem palatable. The problem is he's just not. There's not a very big market for neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dogs that look like gremlins. But I have to believe there's someone out there for Prancer because I'm tired, and so is my family. Every day we live in the grips of the demonic Chihuahua hellscape that he has created in our home. And she continues, and I won't read it all for you because it's hysterical, but she continues and then gets to the very end, signs off, oh, he's only 2 years old and will probably live to be 21 through pure spite. So take that into account if you're interested, right? So very, very funny ad. I think about this all the time. And by the way, this dog, if you're wondering, did eventually get adopted, right? So here's People Magazine talking about this dog. Here's USA Today talking about this cute dog. Here's BuzzFeed, well, assuming it loads. BuzzFeed, please. Do the thing. There it is. Here's BuzzFeed talking about this cute doggo, right? And of course, the New York Times. Oh, there we go. Prancer the demonic Chihuahua finds a home, right? So I think about this dog a lot. I just like, I want to build something to support finding a home for this doggo. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to build an assistant because most people don't find their dogs by going into, they don't find them on the news, Like most dogs, you go to a shelter, you interview the shelter about the dogs in the shelter, and off you go, hopefully with the dog of your dreams, or in this case, dog of your nightmares. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to build an assistant using Spring AI. So we'll go back to the second favorite place on the internet. My first favorite place, obviously, is production. Second favorite, start.spring.io. And we're going to build a new application called, you guessed it, Assistant, because I'm great with names. I get that from my dad. He was also great with names. When I was a small boy, we had a small white dog, and my dad named him White Dog. Okay? Amazing with names. We have a choice about what version of Java we'd like to use. Friends, there are 3 choices here, but only one valid one. You see, Java 25 is technically superior in every way. It's faster, more robust, more performant, more syntax-rich, more scalable, more operations-friendly. It's technically superior in every way. It's also morally superior. Okay? You won't like the look of sadness and shame and chagrin in your children's eyes when they find out that you're using Java 21 in production. Be the change you want to see in the world. Do the right thing. Use at least Java 25 or later. It's also mathematically superior. This is just simple maths. Okay? Java 25 is more than 3 times greater than Java 8. That's a fact. It's a simple fact. Okay? It's an amazing, amazing release. And by the way, Java 25 brings with it my all-time Double Dutch favorite feature, freaking ever, right? So we'll do this, open that up, open that, void, nope, void, main, okay, print line, hi, nope. Look at that. Exited Vim in the first try. Come on, are you not impressed? I am impressed. So now I'm going to run this as a script. I'm not even going to bother compiling it. Voila. I didn't compile it, right? So I ran it like a script written in Java. You know what you just saw? Do you know what you just saw? Do you realize, for the first time, a good JavaScript? It's never happened before. Okay? You saw it here. It's an amazing time. And by the way, this JavaScript, the good kind, like me, no class. Okay? No class. It's an amazing release. So I'm going to use Java 25 because I'm paying attention. Remember, we keep these other 2 radio boxes here just to find out who makes terrible life decisions. Okay? Never click them. Never use them. Now, let's build it. Let's add up some dependencies here. Okay? We're going to use an AI model. It doesn't all that much matter which one you want to use. I'm going to use OpenAI because I'm lazy. But there's more than 20 of them supported by Spring AI. And of course, OpenAI is itself kind of a de facto protocol for a bunch of other models. So if you have OpenAI on the class path, it's sort of like Amazon S3's protocol has become a de facto protocol for blob storage, right? OpenAI itself is the protocol for other models, even if they aren't explicitly supported here. We're going to bring in PG Vector for some vector store stuff. Vector stores are data stores optimized for semantic similarity search. I'm going to bring in GraalVM native images. I'm going to bring in the web support. I'm going to bring in I need a database, but I'm going to use Postgres as a vector store. So logically, 2 different things. Postgres, vector store. In this case, I'm getting 2 for 1, okay? You might indeed use any of the other vector stores, right? Milvus, Neo4j, Pinecone, MariaDB, Weaviate, Oracle, blah, 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 right? And by the by, what's interesting about this is, like, there's support for a lot of vector stores that are extensions to existing data store infrastructure that you've got in a class path. You don't have to use purpose-built vector stores, right? And in fact, when we announced Spring AI 1.0 back in last year, and it went GA, that in that same week we had blogs from Elastic, Oracle, MongoDB, and Redis. These companies don't agree on anything, but they agree Spring AI is a pretty interesting thing for their users, right? So they did blogs on that. Same thing, by the way, Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud, all in the same week, had blogs about Spring AI. Okay, so good stuff there. We need chat memory. We'll talk about what that is. We'll use JDBC there. I'm going to bring in the model context protocol client support. I'm going to bring in the MCP security support. I'm going to bring in the OAuth client support. And I think I'm okay. Do I need anything else? PG Vector, chat memory, OpenAI, whatever. Off we go. So let's open this up. Okay, and we're going to talk to a SQL database that I have running on my local machine. Okay, so Spring data source, JDBC, PostgreSQL localhost, and it's my database. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do username is username, my user. Hey, come on, my user. And then the password is, don't tell anybody, but it's secret, okay? And we're going to click this little button right here, do the thing, test connection, off we go, apply, okay, over here. And we've got a table. We got a bunch of tables, really, but we've got one table that we care about, dog. And in it, we can find a bunch of dogs who, surprisingly, not yet adopted. And here's our buddy Prancer. His ID is 45. His name is Prancer. And he's described as a demonic, neurotic, man-hating, animal-hating, children-hating dog that looks like a gremlin. And so our our goal today is to build something to support adopting that doggo. So we'll do that here. We're going to create a assistant controller, okay? And we're going to make use of the Spring AI chat client, yeah? So I'm going to inject that, and we're just going to have a little endpoint here to answer questions about the dogs in the shelter, okay? And we'll get back to that implementation soon. But this chat client is your one-stop shop for all things, for all interactions with the AI models. And of course, it was written by the best people. Okay, the best people worked on this client. So it's a very nice, familiar interface for working with AI models, any AI models. And I'm a big believer that portability is a huge reason, you know, especially today. Things are changing so quickly. Having that abstraction and that indirection, super valuable. Okay, so I've injected the builder. That in turn will rely upon having an auto-configured AI model. And for that to have worked, we need to have specified an API key. Now, friends, I have already done that. Before we got on stage, I exported an environment variable like this, and I set it to a valid API key. So that's already working, okay? Forgive me for not leaking my API credentials. Just trust that it's been done, okay? Moving on. I'm going to ask questions and forward those questions. I'm going to take questions and forward those questions to the model, like so. So call.content, etc. Now, these are user prompts, okay? And that's to distinguish them from system prompts. We'll get to that in a second. Okay, so I think that's it. We should comment out the security for the moment. Don't, by the way, if you leave this talk right now, don't take away from this that I commented out security. That's not what's happening here. We will revisit this, okay? Here we are. Where's my security? Spring AI MCU client. This one, good, okay. Comment that out. Very sad. Hate to do it. Hate to do it. Spring Boot starter security. Okay. Command Shift I to reload. Okay. Very good. So I think that's pretty good. Let's try that out. All right. We're off to the races. Look, let's go to the console here. Actually, 8080. Ask question. Let's just assert a dial tone. My name is Josh. We're just testing the waters here. Just to make sure we're all connected. Everything's online. Should be good. We're sure to be fine. Let's just see, though. Okay? All right. Nice to meet you, Josh. We're friends. Look at that, huh? Nice. Let's just make sure that's still true, though. So, you know, test but verify, you know. So, what's my name? Should be fine. Come on. It's forgotten me. Why is it always like this? Why can't I make friends? So it is forgotten me because it doesn't have any memory of me, right? And that's fair. We don't. It's a stateless API, unlike the chatbot experiences when you talk to Claude or ChatGPT or whatever in the browser. This doesn't have any state, and so we have to give it state. And we have to propagate a transcript of everything that's been said prior to this conversation. Well, that means taking note of everything that's been said, and we can do that with advisors. Spring AI advisors allow us to, for example, pre-process and post-process requests. So I'm going to configure here a prompt chat memory advisor. Okay, so prompt, come on, I'm typing at an angle here, it's weird. Builder.build, and this is going to require a chat memory, and I want to give it just a rolling window of the data being sent. So I'll send the last, let's say, 20-odd records. That's a message window thing. And I'm going to ultimately need to persist stuff. So I'll use JDBC, the SQL abstraction here. In order for that to work, I'll need a pointer to the data source. I'll put that in there, and then put this here. And hey, come back. And then that, and then that. No, that's JDBC, sorry. And then this is this. Okay. All right. So that's my advisor, and I'm going to configure that on the client so that it will involve it in all the interactions with the AI model. Okay. So here's that, and I'll just configure it as a default advisor, like so. Good. Reload. So now we go to the console, and my name is Josh. That's the saddest thing I've ever seen. Oh, we didn't tell it to initialize the table. So again, it's going to need to persist that stuff somewhere. Okay, reload. And I did just delete that table so we would have a clean slate. So here's the Spring AI chat memory table. Doesn't exist yet, surely. Okay, my name is Josh. Okay, nice to meet you. What's my name? And by the by, you can see over here, it's being, there you go. Your name is Josh. You can see the last response. So it's recording that, and it's using it to inform the response. So the model's looking at the results and going, hey, okay, I remember you. You're that guy. Good. Now, the question is, which guy? Because actually, if you look at that, it just says default. We have no correlation ID. So what I want to do is give it a correlation ID, and let's establish a user context. Now, obviously, what we really want is like a security principle, like an authenticated user. That's called foreshadowing. Okay? Keep that in the back of your old noodle. We're going to install this here. This is a request parameter and path variable string user. Say advisors a.param user. Okay. Chat memory dot conversation ID user. Okay. So now let's clean this out. Voila. Goodbye. My name is Josh. Oh, now it needs to go to Josh. Okay. And then you can see it's been correlated now by that user. Okay. So you can use any arbitrary thing. Great. So we've got a correlated conversation, but still, remember the mission here is to help adopt dogs. We don't want this thing just answering random people's homework, right? We want them to be focused on helping people find and adopt the dog of their dreams or nightmares. So what we need to do is to give it a system prompt. And I happen to have a system prompt that I've pre-written. Okay. Whoa. Cat, desktop, misc, system, talk, system, prompt. And I'm just going to cat that and then pipe it to the, wait, this is wrong. Much better. Okay. PB copy. And we'll put that in here. var system, paste, and then system. Okay. There's that, reload. And it says, you are an AI-powered assistant to help people adopt the dog from the adoption agency in Pooch Palace with locations in Antwerp, Seoul, Tokyo, Singapore, Paris, Mumbai, Delhi, Barcelona, San Francisco, and London. Information about the dogs available will be presented below. If there's no information, return a polite response suggesting we don't have any dogs available. And should anybody ask you about a date, just return a date. Okay, don't talk. Okay, so let's try this again. Here we go. Do you have any dogs? Okay, normal question to ask. It's going to be fine. Really, it's so, I don't know why it's gotten so slow. Okay. All right, Josh, don't have any list in our system, but so you can see it knows about the mission, right? It knows that we are part of Pooch Palace. It knows about the locations. It knows what we're trying to do, but obviously we didn't give any information about the dogs, right? This is important. We need to give it access to those dogs. So that's the first thing we're going to do is connect it to our data, right? This is where I think we have a really interesting opportunity. We in the Java and Spring community work on the JVM. Most of the business logic, most of the organizations are running on the JVM. It's natural, it's much more natural to hang these AI integrations off of existing and well-deployed Java and Spring services than it is to try and rebuild them in these new languages and new ecosystems. You heard a thing from MIT a few months ago, something like 80% or was it 90% of AI projects fail? Well, of course. You know why they said they failed? Because they were trying to create new things that didn't slot into existing workflows. No kidding, right? If you try and build a brand new app in Python that has no institutional knowledge, it's forgotten everything, all the lessons of the systems and services that are already there, of course that's going to fail. What did you expect? You didn't even need AI to know that, you know? So I think we have a unique opportunity here. And the way this is going to be most effective is if we connect these AI models to our data and to our logic, our business logic. So let's do that. I'm going to give it access to the data. The data is in this dog table. I'm going to create a repository here. I'll say record dog. There's my record, string name, string owner. And I don't need anything else, I don't think. We don't need to actually, we just need the description, really. Okay. And I'm using Java records here because I'm also using Spring Data JDBC. Let me just make sure I have that here. Okay, go back, add this, okay. And I love Java records. I'm a huge fan of Java records. Just such a big fan, okay. Dog repository extends list of CRUD repository managing dogs whose primary keys of type integer. And now when the program starts up, I'm going to inject the dog repository, and I'm going to read the data from the repository and then write it out to my vector store, which again happens to both be the same thing. They're both Postgres, but with an extension enabled. But logically, they could be something else. It could be Postgres for the repository and Qdrint or Chroma or Weaviate or Neo4j or Oracle or MongoDB or whatever for your vector store, okay? Okay. Dot find all. I'm going to take each dog. I'm going to create a Spring AI document. And I'm just going to write some text, free-form text. Doesn't really all that much matter. Description. Here we are. Okay. Formatted. Good. What happened here? Very sad. There you go. Good. Okay. And I'm going to write that to the vector store like so. And oh, you know what? This is obviously a document for dogs, so I shall call it a document. Okay. Now we've got this, and this is yet another advisor. Okay, bean question answer advisor, vector store. There you go. Okay, I'm going to put that question answer advisor here, QA, and I'll just inject that in the same arrangement as I did before, and then I'm going to reload. So this is going to take a little bit longer to restart this time because it has to re-vectorize all that data. It's going to go to the OpenAI endpoint. It's going to take the text that we've given it. It's going to vectorize it by passing it to the embedding model, which is yet another dimension of configuration. By default, the Spring AI starter for OpenAI auto configures the embedding model to point to the OpenAI embedding endpoint. But, you know, again, that's another model you could configure yourself and override the defaults. Okay. There we are. Take 5. Let it do its thing. All right. Now, obviously, I don't want to do that every single time. So I shall go here and say false, and then done. Okay. So now, now I've got that. Now we can ask questions about data in the database. Right. Let's let it reload. Here we go. Just one more time. Okay. Much better. Do you have any neurotic dogs? I mean, we know we do. Okay. Hi, Josh. Yes, we have a dog named Prancer in our records who's described as demonic and neurotic with strong aversions to men, other animals, and children. And this listing says they look like gremlins. I think that's the most important part. So it's connected, it's configured, it's working. We found our dog, but obviously this is just a giant paragraph of text. I might want it back in for more of an API compatible way. So I might say dog ID, string name, like that. And then take that type, and instead of asking for the content back as a string, I can say entity and just return this. Reload. And then ask the same question again. Okay, name Prancer, ID 45. That's an int, right? So now I can take that and send it up to other layers of the API for enrichment and correlation and all that, right? I don't have to parse that paragraph of text. I actually do want the text, as it turns out, but I just wanted to show you that you can do this. So let's return it to that form, and we'll say content. Okay, now what I want to do, you know, any red-blooded human being at this point would want to adopt this dog, surely. So what I want to do is support adopting that dog. We need to schedule a time at which somebody can swing by the shelter to pick up the dog. So I shall create the also important dog adoption scheduler, okay? And here we'll have a method that returns a point in the future when somebody can swing by the shelter to pick up a dog, okay? So return, I'll say var I, and I'm just going to do it 3 days hence, right? So Kone unit days, and then to string, and then I'll return, hey, none of that, okay? Here we are. Print line, scheduling, okay. And then we want to dog ID, sure. Okay, and I'm going to make this available to my AI model by annotating it as a tool, schedule an appointment to pick up or adopt a dog from a Pooch Palace location. Okay. Now, could you use multi-line strings? Yeah. So let's see. I'm going to make this a tool param. And by the way, this is very important here, right? This is the text description of what we want done. This is, in effect, the schema. When you were young and your mom told you to use your words, this is what she was saying. Clearly document your AI inputs, okay? So I'm going to make this a tool. I'm going to inject this scheduler over here. Scheduler, okay? And default tools. Okay, reload. And now, do you have any neurotic dogs? We already established that. Actually, let's just remove all that. Goodbye, start from 0. Okay. Come on, do the thing. I don't know why it's so fast. Do they not have servers on this side of the world? I'm seriously, this is really, really slow. Okay. Okay, fantastic. When can I pick up Prancer from the Pooch? No, from the London. Very important. London Pooch Palace location. Okay. I mean, we've only got 45 minutes. Okay, there we got it. We got a point in time, 12 days hence. It is the 9th of February right now. And we can confirm that this tool was called because it says scheduling 45 for whatever. So this is very important. We've given our AI model access to our data and our business logic. We've given it agency, right? This is where things are really interesting. Now, obviously, there is the possibility you might want to repurpose this very important business logic here, right? And I heard a horrifying hypothetical the other day that I almost dare not repeat here, but I feel like it's important to address. Somebody suggested that it's possible to write interesting applications in some other language besides Java and Spring. Now, I've never seen this. I regard this like the Higgs boson particle, right? For years, scientists said it was hypothetically possible, but we had not seen it. And I feel it's the same thing now, but just in case this happens, I want to be prepared. So I want to centralize this business logic, externalize it, and I'm going to use a nice protocol called Model Context Protocol. This protocol was created in November of 2024. Do you remember November? Because I don't. Anyway, it was created more than a year ago, and in the first weeks after the introduction of that protocol from Anthropic, the Spring AI team built an MCP Java SDK implementation and integrated it into Spring AI. It was such a good integration that we eventually ended up donating it. So it's the official MCP Java SDK right now. And if you're using MCP in Java, as well you should, then you're using code that we wrote. We then rebased our Spring AI integration on top of that new external SDK. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to build a MCP service for that. Okay, so back to the lab again, start.spring.io, MCP server, MCP security, MCP, sorry, OAuth resource server, and web. Hello, I said web. Go do the thing. Here we are. Okay, I'm going to call this scheduler. And UAO scheduler.zip. Okay, and I'm going to run this on port, what did I say, 8010, 9010, whatever. Let's just we'll figure it out later. Maybe it's 9000. I think it's 9010. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Scheduler. And I'm going to do something terrible, something that you should never, ever do, ever. Not even when you're all by yourself at home and no one is looking. I'm going to copy and paste some code. Okay. MCP tool. And MCP tool param. Okay. And list. I want to make this a 9010 MCP protocol streamable. I want this to be, well, that's it actually. Let's get rid of the security for the moment. Again, not the lesson here. Okay. Alrighty. Okay, so that's up and running. Now I want to reconnect this application to that newly minted MCP service I have on the class path here, the MCP client support. There it is. Right, so let's go ahead and configure that connection here. We'll say MCP streamable HTTP connections scheduler.url equals HTTP localhost 9010. And I think that's it. Maybe MCP tools, tool, client tool callback enabled, init, something init, whatever. And then we just inject the tool callback provider here. So tool callback provider, scheduler, and we pass that not to the tools, but to the tool callbacks, and then reload. Okay. Hey, what happened? Did I do the wrong port? 9010. Hey, what did I put here? 9010. Okay. Did I forget to disable? Oh, I did, didn't I? Look at that. IntelliJ didn't see the Maven class path changes. Reload. Okay. Reload this. All right, now we're cooking. So back to that. Go to the memory. Delete all that. We don't want it checking its own notes. Okay. Okay. Do you have any neurotic dogs? Okay, got our buddy Prancer. Now, when can I adopt him? And we can see here in the scheduler, it called our function, again, our tool. So we've got two JVM processes running here, right? And the MCP server on the scheduler is over here, and that's where the tool call was made. Look at the response, you can see Prancer is scheduled for that date. So it's worked. We've got an end-to-end MCP client and MCP service. Friends, this is the possibility here. I did I went to a party in December, and it was a ridiculous party. It was like a suit and tie affair. Now, to be 100% honest with you, full disclosure, I don't own a suit and tie, right? Why would I? What have I got to wear a suit and tie for? We IPO'd, my company IPO'd, I was on the stock exchange floor. I wore this t-shirt, okay? For that day, I wore this t-shirt. I don't care about suits and ties. Look at me, okay? So I went and bought a stupid suit and tie for this stupid party, but it was cool because it was right after they announced that MCP had joined the Linux Foundation. And MCP, right? This model context protocol, they said this is generational infrastructure, akin to like Kubernetes or something. A lot of people would build a lot of amazing things on top of this, they said. And I really felt that, right? And you could see it in the room. I'm in San Francisco. There's thousands of people, all of whom probably didn't have suits and ties, but they all got them, right? It was definitely more expensive to buy the suit and tie than it was to like, if you wanted to go for, if you were just there for the drinks, you could have gone anywhere else. It was way easier, right? So we went there and there's thousands of people, uproarious applause. I mean, just this energy. People are really excited because now you can like repurpose this logic in which you've built and invested so long. But I still want to take this to production because again, this isn't JavaScript, the bad kind. This is JavaScript, the good kind. So this has to be production worthy. And so I want to make this more secure. And I am short on time, I'm afraid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the worst thing ever. I'm going to copy and paste. So let's go back over here. Bring the build back into line. Okay. There's this. There's this. Get rid of that. Okay. There we are. Reload this. Go back to this. And this. And this. This. Okay. So I've got now two applications that are secure. They're not going to let me make requests unless I have a valid token. I need an OAuth token. Where do I get that? From an OAuth IDP. So I'm going to lock this down. I'll create an auth server here. You can use any valid OAuth authorization server that supports dynamic client registration. Okay, web, Postgres, JDBC. Okay, hit and generate. Oh, I did the wrong thing here. Hold on. rm auth.zip. Almost never, but today. Okay. Here we are. Auth.zip. And now I happen to have a pre-written auth.yaml with my client definitions, right? The OAuth client definition. So I'll put that here. Okay. Sort of like if you went to a self-service developer.twitter.com or whatever, and you wanted to tell it about your clients, your OAuth clients, you would do that here. So this is saying, hey, I am an OAuth client called default client, which has a default secret. And once somebody has done the three-legged OAuth dance, with like a sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google, you do a sign in with Facebook, it redirects you to Facebook, you do the approve and sign in and all that, redirects you back. Where? Well, in this case, it's going to redirect you back to the OAuth client on port 880. That in turn will now have an OAuth access token, and I want to send that token in the body of the request downstream to the MCP service. My MCP server has to be secured. It will act logically as an OAuth resource server. Okay, so localhost 8080 authorize auth server, blah blah blah. Okay, and the name of the cookie is, I'm making it distinct from one JVM to another. The cookies are stupid, right? Remember, they're unique per host, but not host and port. So if you have 3 JVM processes running on the local host, the cookies clobber each other in the same browser. Okay, so it's important to, because they're all called JSession ID and they're all tied to localhost, which is stupid. Okay, so you have to either rename them or set up different host names. So you go to, Etsy hosts and map auth and scheduler and assistant to different hosts, to local host. Okay, so that's this. Okay, and in the auth server, I'm going to set up some users. Okay, actually, wait, I can do better. I'll just point it to the users in my database here. So, good. And I think, oh, no, I need the security as well. Let me do that. So, customizer, HTTP security. Wait, how much time do I have? We have no time. Here, I'm going to save myself some keystrokes here. Auth, this one. Okay, easy. And this right here comes from the MCP security project. This is a, remember, the OAuth, the integration for security in MCP is an ongoing thing. So we have an experimental research project in the Spring AI community, and that brings in this auto-configure support. All this is doing is configuring your authorization server to support the features that we need to make this work. It's not adding new features to the auth server. Okay, hold on. Where is this? Server. Computer says no. Where's my MCP security? Here. Maven. Can I just copy and paste that? It's in there somewhere, surely. Okay. Not this one. So, do we not have... Oh, no, it's auth server. Command-Shift-A. Okay. Good. Good. So that's it. I'm creating an auth server. I'm pointing it to the users that are in my SQL database. Oops, I have to point it to the database, don't I? Yeah, I did that already. Where's my, wait, let's create the usernames and passwords here. So Spring data source username is my user. Password is, nope, not even close, secret. And URL, my goodness, is jdbc:/PostgreSQL my database. And I'll just put that in quotes because YAML. Okay, take 5. Okay, so that's an auth server, and you can prove it's a valid OAuth auth server like Facebook, like Google, like Okta, like Auth0, like Active Directory by going to localhost. What port did we say it was on? Port 90 something? 9,000, thank you. Localhost 9,000 dot well-known /OpenID configuration. That's a standard endpoint for all OAuth IDPs. Great. So now I have a full auth server. Okay, this is Facebook or Okta without the golf games and the enterprise sales and all that. Okay. Now I want my assistant to act as an OAuth client. So customizing that again. Here's the OAuth client stuff. So let's just copy all this. These 3 beans. here, assistant application, put the beans over here. Okay, so inject that, this one's desperately in need of some auto config. Here we go. Bring that in, that in, that in. Good. So all I'm saying is when somebody goes to the client on the HTTP endpoint, just let it you know, wide open. We don't care. But what we want is for when they make MCP calls via the client to the backend service, that should be authenticated. So that's why we're configuring an MCP sync client customizer. Okay, and we're telling it to act as a client to the auth server with the auth server registration. In order for that to work, it needs to have information about the auth server. So I'll go back over here, and that's this bit right here, right? We have all of that. Paste. I feel like that's probably fine. Did I miss anything? Whatever. Okay. And that's going to the auth. So the scheduler's on 9010. It thinks. Where did we end up putting the scheduler? 9010. It's like I've done this before. Go back over here. And then finally, the scheduler. One little bean here. And then we need a configuration value here. Okay. And it's looking for this property, which is a pointer to the auth server. So issuer URI is HTTP localhost 9090. Okay, there we are. And where did we say it was 9010, right? 9010. Okay, do I need anything else on this? We need to modify our code, of course, to use, we want that to be, yeah, we did that already. So we finally want to make sure we change this code so that we have the user context available. So let's change the response value here, record dog adoption response, instant when, or scheduled, or whatever. And then we want to have the user requester, okay? So we'll modify this, it'll be dog adoption response. And then we want to get access to the currently authenticated user who's making the request. So security context holder dot get context dot get authentication dot rolls right off the tongue. Okay, and then we return that. Why would you? Terrible, because I put a toString. Okay, it's not bad then. So here we are. So we've got we've got the currently authenticated user making the request. Let's restart this. And sadness. Connection refused. 9010. Didn't I put it on 9010? I put it on 1000? That's, oh, this is on 9010. Okay. Well, that's going to be confusing. This is, so the resource server is in 9010, and then the OAuth client, okay, well, whatever. Good. So that's up and running. That's the server. This is the client. Let's restart that as well. Okay. All right. This one's for all the marbles. Here we go. Oh, that's so sad. 404. What do we want to do? We want to make a call to the model, right? Over here. When can I pick up Prancer, JSession ID? It complained. JSession. Wait, the client. Did I do the config here? Security filter chain. Permit all. I did the config. Did I do the properties? Oh, what's this? Authorization required for client registration. I feel like we did this already. Auth server is low. So wait, what is the auth server on? Is it 9000 or 9010? 9000. So that's fine. 8080. Okay. Did we re-enable the build? It's the only thing I can think of. Oh, well. Okay. Go here again. Still sad. Whatever. We'll figure it out later. Look, my friends, I'll put the code that's working in that GitHub repository. What you need to appreciate from all this is I'm going to have a secure application. I'm sure it's just one bean away from being correct. It certainly can be. I've got it already elsewhere. We have secure applications. We have virtual threads that gives you the equivalent of async await in JavaScript or TypeScript or Python or whatever, but without all the verbosity. So you get the same scalability story as these other languages without wasting your life writing that kind of code, right? And we have observability. You can actually use Spring's actuator to, for example, measure how many tokens you've used, right? This is enterprise-grade AI. This is what sets us apart from these other vibe-coded nonsense ecosystems. We have an amazing opportunity here. Most of the language, most of the infrastructure, most of the investment is already in these languages. Take advantage of it. There's never been a better time to be a Java and Spring developer. I hope I've so persuaded you. Thank you for your time. Have a lovely evening. And now they saved the best for last, my buddy Pratik. Thanks, man.
Okay.
Cheers.
We have a question.
Why?
We have a question.
The one.
The one question is, are you going to share the code?
Yeah,
Yes.
I did, and it'll be here once I've fixed it at oh
I thought you were going to drop straight into AI at the end there to fix your problem for you.
no, here, it'll be here. I'll put it up there in a few minutes once I fix the issue.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
Cool.
Josh Longatic, 2026-0209. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Break a leg, buddy.
Microphone on you.
Oh, please take it off of me.
Thank you. Okay.
Is this like Iron Man or something that you push the button and ish? Okay. All right. Can you hear me okay? Can you see my screen? All right. All right. So let me start with a couple questions here. How many people have built and deployed an AI application to production so far? One person. Have you? Oh, not Java. It's okay. It doesn't matter what language it is. So if you don't mind me asking, what kind of application is it, if you can tell me? It's an insurance app. Okay. Okay. How many people are working on either adding AI to an existing application or building a new application from the ground up that has AI enablement or AI capability inside of it? Anybody? Okay, so that's 2. And so there's 30 people. How many people are here, Steve? 200. Okay, so there's 200 people here, and 3 people have raised their hands so far. So what are the rest of you doing, if you don't mind me asking? So I'll pick on you. Well, what's that? Well, yeah. Are you like looking at it, or are you just here to learn? I'm just trying to understand the audience and the level of expertise with all this stuff in the room. Okay, fair enough. And you're a developer, I assume, right? Yeah. So a Java developer? Okay, great. Anybody else? Like, why are you here? Obviously to learn about this, but is your company asking you like maybe next month or next year or start looking into this stuff? Or is this just for holy shit, is my job going to be taken over by some kind of GPU, so I need to learn this stuff? So where are we at here? Just to get an idea. I know it's kind of late. So I don't want to ramble on with these specific questions for too long. Just again, trying to get an idea of what people are here for. Like this young lady's just out of school here, and she's here to learn some AI, which is great. So anybody else? No? So do we need to give away like 50-pound notes to get people involved here? What's going on? How does this work here? Okay.
That's right. How many people here have used AI in a project? Like you've actually written some AI something.
Okay, that's a great question.
That's a better question.
Okay.
Okay, so
All right.
so they're all.
So everyone in this room is
Right.
probably using AI code assistance to some level, right? Okay, all right, fair enough. Well, this presentation is not about that, okay? So what we're going to talk about is actually building AI applications and something called AI native. And actually, one of the ironic things about this, me giving this presentation, is as I was doing research about this topic about, I don't know, 6 or 9 months ago, one of the speakers who had a really great presentation on this topic about a year ago was actually someone from Tessl. So who's the guy that works here that's got kind of long hair and like a beard? What's that? Is he the boss here? I don't know. I thought Simon was the boss here. Okay, make sure you tell Simon I said that, or his boss. Okay. Anyways, he gave a great presentation at AI Engineer, and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. Anyways, there's a bunch of people talking about this stuff, so I figured I'd come and talk about this. And I've been talking about this at a few conferences, and so far nobody has fallen asleep or thrown tomatoes yet. So you may enjoy this presentation. Okay. My name is Pratik Patel. I'm a Java champion based out of Atlanta, Georgia. I help with the Atlanta Java User Group. You may have read one of the books I've written over the years. And I work at a company called Azul. And what we do is we make Java virtual machines and tooling for the JVM. So one of our key products that is used quite a bit here, actually, in the London area is something called Azul Platform Prime, which is a high-performance Java virtual machine, a drop-in replacement for your JVM. So if you work in finance or in any kind of industry that requires high throughput, low latency, or you just want to save money by reducing the number of cloud servers you're running your stuff on, you can also do that with this high-performance VM. And then we have another really cool product called Azul Code Inventory, which is like X-ray for your Java apps. It tells you what Java code you're actually running in production. And from that, you can tell what code you're not running in production. And what do you do with code that you're not running in production? You delete the F out of it is the correct answer, okay? Because that's a lot of technical debt. And if you're going to refactor your stuff to move to microservices for modernization, or I don't know, maybe you're going to write some AI features in, get rid of all that code you're not using so it doesn't get in the way, okay? Anyways, I have a bunch of other presentations and workshops. I do come over onto this side of the Atlantic semi-frequently. I should be back at the end of March. So if you're interested, for example, if your company is willing to host and you can get 10 of your coworkers in a room, I have a great workshop on building a real-world AI application with Java Big Data and Apache Spark. And then I have a Spring AI hands-on workshop. Where did Josh go? Josh also has a great Spring AI hands-on workshop. Is that right, Josh? Okay, that is true. Okay. So anyways, if Josh can't make it, call me. I can come and do that. So anyways, I have a bunch of other stuff called performance testing, around performance testing and whatnot. All right, so let's get on with what we're going to talk about. Where's Sam at? Sam still here? Okay, and so we have this room until 11 p.m., so I can go until then, right? I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I know everyone will probably want to get home. So I'm going to go through this a little bit fast. I'm not saying Josh stole my time, but he stole my time. But if you have any questions while I'm kind of going through this at some speed, please raise your hand, and I'll be happy to take a second to answer your question. Yes, and same thing for the online folks. If you have a question, please put it into the chat box or the QA box or whatever, and then someone in the room will yell that question at me, okay? So this is what we're going to talk about today, AI native overview, AI application architecture, and I'm going to skip the third bullet because Josh covered some of what I was going to talk about, but we can talk about that if you're interested, okay? All right, so let's talk about AI system architecture for a few minutes. And I realized that, is anyone in here not a Java developer? Okay, what do you code in? Don't say JavaScript. I'm just joking. What do you code? Python? Go. Oh my God. I think this calls for an intervention. Do you have a cocktail bar near here? I think I'm going to need a stiff drink to have a, anyways. Yeah. Okay. So when I think of the way that we're building applications and how AI architecture looks currently, obviously everything in our space is changing very quickly, right? I break it down into these three kind of large phases or buckets, right? There's this whole data acquisition and pre-processing part that can involve things that are in the big data space like Kafka, Iceberg, and Flink. And the actual work that you do is data prep and cleaning. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about this because this is super important. Because if you work for a company and you have data, which is basically that data is what makes your company valuable, right? It's the stuff that it's not just the business logic that you have, but the data that you've collected over the years or data that you collect in real time or whatever it may be. Because if everybody had access to the same data, then you wouldn't have a unique product. Anybody could do what you were doing, right? Everyone probably agrees with that statement. What's that? Oh, sorry. Is it okay if I stand here then? Okay, sorry about that. I thought this was one of those fancy follow the nerd back and forth cameras. Okay. Sorry about that, Sam. All right. So the second part is the modern AI architecture is this model building and fine tuning part. Right. Currently, a lot of this is done in Python, right, which is fine. There are some libraries in the Java universe like Deep Learning 4J and DeepNets and other things like that. But to be honest with you, the Java universe is quite behind in terms of having all of the tools and the libraries to be able to do model building, fine tuning, low rank adaptations, and other things like that. Okay, and that's okay, right? I'm not a Java bigot. I have even been known to use JavaScript occasionally. Don't tell anybody that. This isn't being broadcast, is it? Or recorded. Okay. Anyways, I'm joking, of course. I've used lots of different things over the years. I'm sure you have too. Okay. So I prefer the white space is not meaningful types of languages like Java, but that's just a personal preference. Okay. And then on the far right side, we have inference and integration, basically the AI application itself. Right. So when I think about this and where Java fits into the picture, Java is probably the most efficient way to write and deploy code at scale. Okay, I know the gentleman in the back there is programming in Go, but I'm going to go have an intervention with him with a very large whiskey in a bit. Okay, to bring him back to the light side of the force. Okay, but again, everyone in this room is a Java developer, so you won't disagree with what's on the far bottom right, which is you can run efficiently and you can run at scale. We have proven patterns. You can buy cloud infrastructure that runs this stuff amazingly, and then you use some Azure Prime to make it run even faster. Okay, there, get my product pitch in. Pay for this trip. All right. Anyways, so now we're going to shift gears and talk about the evolution of AI apps. So most of you in this room who've been building software, probably in the last 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, have been asked, hey, what's this AI thing aside from code assistance? What can we do with it to make our products better? What features can we add that we couldn't have before, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So one of the things that I'm responsible for at Azul and leading the developer relations team is this thing right here. This thing right here. So we get about 200 million downloads of our open source JVM. We also have an open source version of our JVM called Azul Zulu that gets about 200 million downloads a year. It's a lot of downloads, right? And it's my responsibility to track and provide quarterly reports that go up to the executive team and the board. And I used to do all that manually. But because I'm lazy, i.e. I'm a developer, I automated as much of that as I could, right? Like any developer would. And I've been thinking about, okay, so I have this AI-enabled chatbot. I actually have a demo application. It doesn't use my data, but it uses UK housing real estate data. But it's very, very similar in terms of how it works, okay? And I can share that code with you. But it's basically a chatbot, right? Someone will ask me, how many downloads of JDK 17 were there in the month of January of this year, or something like that? What was the difference in the downloads after Java 25 came out in September for the older version of Java? I get all these questions, and normally I'd have to go into something and pull some data out and blah, 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 right? You write some code, or you use something like, we used to use Amazon QuickSet. If you've ever used that, not a very user-friendly product. I hope no one from Amazon is on the call. Anyways, so it would take a lot of time. Of course, I automated that. Now I have a chatbot that says, go and tell me how many downloads of this specific JVM came from this geo, and it will just tell me or produce a graph for me, et cetera. Again, because I'm a developer, and that automatically makes me a very lazy person because I don't like doing repetitive tasks. I like to do fun stuff like you people, okay? So that's how I used to think of AI, right? Okay, I create this nice chatbot. It goes and writes Spark SQL scripts for me and pulls the data and can produce graphs, et cetera, okay? Now, I've been thinking a lot about how AI can, especially specifically generative AI, can be used to make what I do at work and for other things much easier, right? So I shifted my mindset to generative AI specifically being a bolt-on to some project. I'm sprinkle some AI on it, boom, now we're an AI company. I'm joking, of course, but you get the idea, right? So I think of the AI system I'm building now as being goal-oriented, right? So things like it automatically gets updated every week with new data, and then the AI wakes up and sends me a report. I don't have to do anything. It figures it out and goes and sends me stuff, okay? And then on top of that, it goes the extra mile. And again, when I think of AI today and how we're building applications with it, I think about using the quote-unquote intelligence that's in artificial intelligence to do stuff that I would normally do manually, or do stuff that I can't even think of, really. Right? So, for example, the generative AI model figures out, wow, okay, I see there's Java 25 just got released this month. There's a new release. What do the downloads for that look like? So it proactively does stuff that I would normally have to think of, but it does it for me, okay? And it will also do proactive things like send an alert when trends change for downloads. I see that these are the trends for the different JVM versions that have been coming out or that are currently there. But now all of a sudden I see a big spike in downloads for Java 17 or whatever, right? So it will proactively send me an alert instead of me having to dig through and see that in a trend graph somewhere and then scratch my head and say, I wonder why this is, and then go digging through stuff. It'll just take all that stuff and send it to me and say, here you go. I saw this anomaly in the downloads, and I've included the data that shows what those differences were or whatever, okay? And same thing. This JVM version is now end of life. What are the impacts? Okay, so it's goal-oriented and it's proactive. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this in just a second. So just for a quick minute, I have some real-world samples I can share with you. One is a real estate investor / agent assistant. What do you call real estate agents in this country? Estate agents, is that right? Estate agents, thank you. We call them realtors or real estate agents, right? Because we like to be verbose for no reason. Anyways, so this is similar to what I was just describing. And then I also have this thing that I'm building for the DevNexus conference. That's a community conference that we run in Atlanta that Josh is going to be speaking at soon, actually, right? But it can answer questions like this, right? So just to give you a brief, very, very quick synopsis of it, QR code is how to get in touch with me if you'd like access to this and get the documentation or the getting started guide. So the real estate app uses Apache Spark, Apache Iceberg. I'm working on integrating Kafka into it, but it basically takes open UK housing data and it pulls it from Iceberg, loads it into Spark, and you just go and ask a question. Sorry, I'm going to flip this in just a second. And you can literally ask it, what was the average sales price in Birmingham in 2024? And it will answer that for you by loading that data into Spark, taking the English language query, converting it to SparkQL, and running it in basically in MapReduce or whatever fashion inside of Apache Spark, okay? And then the CoffBot uses a couple of more advanced techniques. It uses RAG, it uses tools and MCP, and has what I consider to be relatively sophisticated testing around evals and LLM and a judge, and all this stuff is available, and you guys can check it out, okay? All right, so let's get back to what we were talking about. Now, how do we get here? How many people in this room know what cloud native means? Hopefully that's everybody in this room. Hopefully everyone has at least heard of the term, if not doing cloud native style of development and deployment, okay? Now, there's a reason why I'm asking this question, right? How did your application development process change once cloud native became a thing, right? If you were developing and deploying software like I was 15 years ago, hold on, what year is it? Yes, 15 years ago, all right? I remember we used to name our servers, and then we would do a manual build. If you need a new server, what would you do? You'd pick up the phone, you would call a systems administrator, and they would go do something and fill out a TPS report in triplicate, send it to someone, and a server would show up in some data center that your company owned like a month later, and then now you have access to a server, right? Cloud native changed everything. It changed the way that we thought about doing development. We wouldn't even really dream about doing continuous integration or continuous delivery back in the day, but now we can do that because we have flexible, elastic, on-demand infrastructure to deploy things, right? Everyone knows what cloud native is. Just want to give a brief synopsis of that, okay? So, now if you take that thinking of how we changed, how we built and deployed software when we went from regular development of software, or how we did it before cloud native, to how we're thinking about AI today. Is bolting on AI features to an existing app's AI native? Of course it's not, okay? That's what the heart of this presentation is about. I gave some examples already. We'll give some more in just a second, right? So when we think about packaged software to how we went to the web, so this is going back to like 1998, 99, 2000, right? Does anyone ever remember building stuff in something like Power Builder and how you would deploy those applications, right? How would you do that? You would put it on a CD and you would walk to each person's computer or a floppy disk and you would manually load it on there. That was called SneakerNet, right? Nowadays, what do? Everything is delivered to the network or through a web browser. So we fundamentally changed how we delivered software back then, right? Cloud native apps changed the way that we build applications, and more importantly, it changed the apps themselves, right? So when we think about using AI for building applications, this is the mindset shift that I had to make. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to add little AI features to it, and boom, now I'm, AI enabled this application. Well, okay, that's great, but are we truly using the capability and the power that we have with generative AI to build these applications? That's what you have to ask yourself, right? We're basically going through another transformation. There'll be different types of applications that we'll build that we can't even think of today, just like we couldn't think of deploying stuff like we do with cloud native today. Okay, so again, I won't harp on this too much, but I think I've already made my point. We went from local installs to web apps to software as a service. Everyone knows that. Now, how do most people consume software as a service? You don't even install anything. You just open a browser and boom, off you go, right? So similarly, we went from printouts, network connected, interconnected, to data-driven styles of architecture. Okay, so let's talk about data, and we hinted at the first column that we have in our AI architecture diagram was data, right? Now there's a saying, data is the new oil. Most of you probably heard that saying, right? So what does that mean? Like oil, raw data is not valuable on its own. You can't put raw oil into your car. Crude oil does not work like that. It has to be refined, et cetera, right? But data is a powerful resource only after it's been extracted, refined, and processed. Now, if you think about the data that you're using at your company, you're collecting at your company, how much effort goes into cleaning it, making sure it's good, and then doing something, transforming it to a usable state and accessible state, right? So this is some of the things that we think about, right? Now, but we have the tools to do this kind of stuff, right? We have SQL databases, graph databases. Iceberg is a great place to store huge volumes of data and have it accessible in an almost database-like capacity. There are processing engines like Spark, which allow you to load extremely large data sets and do stuff with them in a timely and fast manner, right? Almost near real time. Of course, there's also things like Kafka, which have a myriad of different features for using, processing, and consuming data. Okay, so if we look at something like this, this gives you a little bit of a kind of higher level view of how some of this comes together. Right, so Iceberg is a storage engine and plus some stuff here at the bottom. And then we have a bunch of different types of processing engines that can go access data from within Apache Iceberg to do lots of different things, okay? You can see Spark is up here in the middle somewhere. That's one of my favorites. So, and this, I don't think we need this fancy animation, but it gives you the idea of how it works. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. We have the AI capabilities, or do we? Is Gen AI really a good basis for AI applications? Okay. Now, actually, one question I didn't ask earlier, and this is always fun, is everyone in this room is using some kind of generative AI platform to do code assist, right? How many people use Anthropic, one of the Anthropic things for code assist? Okay. How about Gemini? Okay, yeah, Gemini is pretty good. I actually use that quite a bit. And then, of course, OpenAI. right? So that's probably pretty much everybody else. Does anybody using any large model or on-demand model aside from those three? Out of curiosity, no one's using like DeepSeek or Kimi. Yeah. So you use that on Open Router or some other? Oh, you just run it locally. Nice. Yeah. How much RAM do you have on your computer? VRAM.
64.
Okay, that's 6. Yeah, it works pretty good. Actually, yeah, I got you. Actually, I think I have my LM Studio up here. Let me see what models I have loaded. Let me. Right, there you go. I have Qwen 3 coder, GLM 4.7 flash, and then on my Mac, I have a Mac Studio sitting under my desk at home, and these are the models that I use on my Mac Studio. Let's see what's Qwen 3 coder. Actually, Nemotron is really good if you haven't tried that. Anyways, there are ways to run these things locally, and you can see that there's a couple of these are large ones, like this one, 270 gigabytes in size. That actually runs in memory on a Mac Studio. Don't ask me how much that Mac Studio cost, okay? So it's arm and leg, I think, is and a kidney.
But I did it and now I regret.
Yeah. So the moral of the story is, if you get a new laptop, you get a MacBook with as much memory as your company or you can afford, because then you can run these models all on a MacBook and they run relatively well, right? So anyways, back to the topic at hand. All right. So when you're building AI applications, right, we're not talking about Code Assist anymore. Gen AI inference is still expensive. It's not cheap. If you use Claude Code, for example, and Claude Code with Anthropic, Sonnet, or Opus, it's the top tier subscription currently that's not enterprise is $200 a month. So it's not cheap. Now, I know people who run out of those tokens very quickly because they use it quite a bit, right? And then you have to spend even more money. But LLMs also have limitations, right? And I think, but the limitations in terms of the accuracy, right? There are all these benchmarks that you see, especially when these new models are coming out. It's like, we scored at 86% on SWE bench. And you're like, wow, that's great. But then the problem is that a lot of these LLM, large language model makers, go and stack the deck in their favor so that it may run at 86% accuracy against the benchmark, but it doesn't run anywhere close to that level of accuracy against your code base, right? But that's a specific example for using Gen AI for coding. But LLMs have limitations, as you're well aware, right? But I think that the bigger problem is that we as software developers don't completely understand how to use LLMs properly. Now, that I could spend a whole 90 minutes ranting about, talking about, and give you some of the reasons why I think that we don't use LLMs properly, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight, okay? So let's get back to this AI app architecture here, right? So we've talked about this so far, data acquisition and pre-processing. If you're building an application, you work at a company, maybe you're doing a startup, your data is probably the only thing that separates you from being immediately replicated by someone who has the same idea as you. I'm generalizing here, but you get the idea, okay? And then we talked about model building and fine tuning. We don't have time to get into RAG and different types of fine tuning and what are the pros and cons of doing a fine tune or building a low rank adaptation or LoRa or using RAG. That's a different presentation, which I actually have also. And then there's the one on the far right, which we talked about a little bit already. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of other things that feed into this AI native style architecture, right? We have APIs, we've had them for years. We're able to get data, right? We're able to perform actions and do things in a loosely coupled manner. Now, how does this fit? Okay, let's talk about a couple more things. We have advanced UX and UI capabilities, right? We've been building voice and chat applications for a long time, even before generative AI was a thing, right? We used to call them expert systems or something like that, right? And front ends today are very sophisticated, right? If you go back to the beginning of the web, it's not rudimentary HTML types of interfaces. There are all sorts of fun things that you can do to make a good user experience. And then, of course, the UI for an application can be available almost anywhere, mobile, voice, desktop, etc. Right? on your wrist, on your phone, or sorry, on your watch nowadays, right? So how do we take this and think about AI native applications, right? So the whole purpose of this presentation is to give you the sense that if you're just bolting on AI, if you're just sprinkling some AI in your project, it's a fair chance you're going to get left behind. Because I love this quote from Wayne Gretzky. Hopefully everyone knows who Wayne Gretzky is. He's well, he's retired now, but probably the most famous hockey player ever, Canadian guy, right? So, and oh, that did not come out very well on the screen. Anyways, it says, I skate to where the puck is going to be, not to where it has been. So what I'm trying to say here is that if you're looking to add AI or AI enable your application, by the time you finish it 3 or 6 months from now, you are going to be behind. So you need to think, again, where's the puck going to be, not where it's at today, okay? So let's get into the heart of what this means, okay? So AI native, designed from the ground up with AI in mind, not just bolted onto an existing application. So if your boss comes to you and says, hey, we need to add some AI to this application so that our stock price goes and shoots through the roof, fine, go do that, okay? And then immediately start, even before you start building an add-on to your existing application with AI, immediately you want to start thinking about how can we build out an application that has AI at the heart. Now, what does that mean? I'm going to talk about that in just a second with these 3 points right here, all right? So an AI native application, to kind of put it in very simple terms, is an application that learns on its own, can adapt on its own, and can act autonomously on its own, okay? It's not just a chatbot. It's not something that can just do some analysis, right? It's not something that can take English language and convert it to Spark QL. That's great. It works. It's very handy, but that's not exactly what we want to do, okay? An AI native application learns and it acts, right? So let me give you a couple examples here. Okay? A traditional content management system, a user might manually tag articles. In an AI native version, agentic flows would handle content tagging, categorization, and even creation suggestions without requiring manual intervention or the invocation of a separate AI plugin. What's the business value here? It does manual tasks automatically, which allows the user to do more and saves time and produces more content, okay? So this is the difference between something that would normally just be an AI bolt-on to something that is AI native, right? You can see it learns and adapts. In an AI native version, an agentic flow would automatically do content tagging. That's a verb or an action. Categorization, something a human might do. Creation suggestions, again, something a human might use his brain to do, his or her brain to do, okay? All right, so, and in my opinion, agents are only halfway to being AI native. We still have a long way to go, maybe not even halfway, okay? An agent can act, but do agents really learn? Because an AI can learn, right? If you give an AI a bunch of stuff, it will summarize it for you. It's kind of learned something. But if you say, hey, I'm going to give you all this stuff, all this data, go and predict for me what next quarter's sales will look like based on the last 5 years, okay? So it's kind of learning from the data that you give it. Yes, it's just doing predictive analysis, but you get the idea. It is actually learning to a certain degree because that's where a neural network is. When you take something, when you take a generative AI model and you give it extra data, it basically is being processed inside of the neural network. I'm not going to say like the human mind because the human mind is about 1 trillion times more sophisticated than the AI we have today. And so if you give me just 10 seconds to go on a quick rant, all these people talking about AGI or basic like general artificial intelligence, like Terminator style robots, and they say, oh, that's 5 or 10 years away. They're full of shit. That's at least 100 years away, if not more, okay? We're nowhere close to what a human brain can do in terms of complexity. Yeah, AI may remember everything, but as you know, a human is not just memory. It's like everything that we can do in your brain. Anyways, I told you I'd be a very quick rant, okay? So when you see someone from like Sam Altman go on stage and say, oh, general AI is 5 or 10 years away. He has an AI company that he's trying to sell some stuff for and raise hundreds of billions of dollars to buy more GPUs. So always, you know, I'm not trying to shoot the messenger here, but always think about when someone goes on TV, it doesn't matter who they are, and they say something, they may have a vested interest in what they're saying. I'm just, you know, just saying, okay? Anyways, enough of that small rant. AI native application learns, okay? So This is what I wish. Normally when I travel, I stay at a Marriott, right? You probably heard of Marriott hotels. So when I book a hotel, I always want a fitness center that has a weight room, and if all possible, be walkable to things like restaurants, workplace, and bars. Now, it's very easy for someone like Marriott or Hilton or whoever to add this as kind of general features by not using AI, okay? Or they could use some AI and add those things I have at the very top here, okay? But this is the mental shift that you have to make, or I had to make, when I think about AI native versus just bolting on or sprinkling AI into something. In an AI native hotel booking system, it would know that this was my preference, or better, would learn from what I've booked in the past. Oh, Pratik always books a hotel that has a gym, and very rarely books a place that doesn't have a fitness center. And Pratik never books somewhere where he has to get parking for a car. So that means he probably wants to stay near places where he can walk, right? So it would learn from what I've booked or my interactions with the booking system or application. It would make suggestions and annotate the pros and cons based on that. It's not an algorithm per se from preferences, but data and AI driven from historical bookings and searches that I've made into the system. Okay, so hopefully you get the idea when I say, okay, this is AI native versus just some AI to go and do some small things which are almost algorithmic in a sense. Okay, so what's the business value? Unfortunately, this is cut off at the bottom. The business value for someone like Marriott or Hilton would be customer retention. It would suggest more expensive hotels and also cross-sell opportunities like a personal trainer or something like that. Okay, so again, trying to drive home the point. What's the difference between standard, let's put some AI into our application, versus thinking in an AI native way to build applications? All right, so the next thing is contextual adaptation. And contextual is the big part there, okay? Right, so hotel booking system gets new data from a feed store that includes a new hotel. It looks at historical pricing trends in the local area, city and state, and sets the pricing for the new hotel and for existing hotels in the portfolio to maximize revenue per unit, revenue per room night. It adapts to the new data. The business goal is maximize revenue, okay? So again, an AI native system versus something that's just added algorithmically, because there may be things in here, if you do it algorithmically, you won't be able to catch as a developer, or you have not baked into the algorithm, okay? So, for example, if you feed it data for like all the hotels in the area, you may miss the fact when you write an algorithm that this hotel over here is closed for refurbishment for the next 6 months. So what should you do if you own a hotel in that same area? You jack up the price and make more money, right? I mean, I know that sucks, but that's how business works, okay? Don't worry, Steve, we're almost there. All right, so AI native architecture. I'm gonna go through these a little quickly since we don't have a huge amount of time, right? But this is how I think of the stack. At the bottom, we have data, then the memory or the knowledge store area, the AI model area, and the reasoning engine, orchestration, logic, the interface layer, and infrastructure and iteration, right? Most of these are pretty straightforward, so I'm going to zoom through most of them, right? So data memory layer stores the app's memory. In fact, raw data is processed into AI-friendly formats, often vector embeddings. This is what's used for RAGs, for example. There are lots of different vector databases that you can use for this. I think Josh talked about some in his presentation. Right, so an example, company policy convert to vectors for quick retrieval when answering user questions. Everyone has probably seen an example of this, so I'm not going to talk too much more detail about that. Okay, AI native architecture, the AI model reasoning, right? So it contains the core AI model, LLM or other machine learning model, performs inference, often uses RAG, might use a fine-tuned model to do something like that, can involve multiple models and tools orchestrated together. And then you can implement this specific part using Python, Node, Java, etc. Okay, but I think the interesting point on this specific slide is that can involve multiple models, right? Because a lot of times people think, well, I use OpenAI, and this, or my company uses OpenAI. This is the only model we should be using. That's not necessarily the case. Certain models are better at certain things. It's changing all the time. It's exhausting sometimes to keep up with it. But Claude, Sonnet, and Opus are really good at coding. If you ask any developer, that's what they will tell you. OpenAI's models are good at coding, but not as good as the ones from Anthropic. Gemini is catching up very quickly. I use Gemini sometimes. It actually does a really good job with Spring Boot projects. Okay, and sometimes it's faster. Okay, anyways, multiple models, can't pigeonhole yourself into one. Okay, the orchestration logic layer, this is where you as a Java developer come in. You manage the flow between user request, data retrieval, and other things. You integrate business logic with AI functionality. We do standard things, parse queries, fetch data. You may use tools and agents allowing the AI to interact with external APIs. And then crucially, again, probably the most important thing is here at the bottom, includes checks and filters on AI output and exception handling. Okay? So I know I don't have a lot of time. I normally spend at least 10 minutes ranting about how generative AI is a non-deterministic system. Okay? If you don't know that, and if you haven't internalized that, that's the first thing you need to do. Because when I first came to AI 2 or 3 years ago, like everybody else in this room, I was like, wow, this is great. It's giving me this great answers, and it looks right almost all the time, right? But when you're building an application, crucially, you have to factor in that these systems are not deterministic. And part of the thing around AI native is that you don't just use it for doing deterministic-like things, like, hey, how many speakers are at this conference? Okay, 117. Okay, that's great. But to really be AI native, you have to use the ability of the Gen AI model to be creative and to be able to reason for itself and do things that you won't normally have the time to do or can even think of, right? It's not deterministic, so it has that ability to be creative and do things that you may not do, okay? But the point is, AI systems are not deterministic. You can get very close to basically zero non-determinism in it, i.e. towards being deterministic, but it will never inherently be 100% deterministic. So if you just remember that, that will save you so much trouble. I wish I would have known that or would have thought that when I first started doing this stuff. Okay, anyways, let's talk about the interface layer. It's not a huge amount to talk about here, but you know, we're kind of used to the conversational UI types of things, chat, mobile apps, et cetera, or dashboards. But again, when I think of AI native, it's not just the interactive part of it. If you remember some of the examples I gave previously, it's a system that can sit in the background and think and do things for you and make even decisions for you and go and do things when you're not watching it or babysitting. Some new data comes in. It will say, oh, some new data's here. I'm going to go and do an analysis of what our downloads look like. What did our sales look like last year? Is there something that I can go and send an alert for saying that, oh, we need to order more of these things or whatever? Okay, again, it's not just about going and using an interactive chat model. There's lots of different things that we can do in an AI native application. Okay, and of course, the last one is at the top here is infrastructure and iteration. I think most people are familiar with this. There are things that are happening where people are trying figured out that caching results, whether it's vector store results or model responses, that's basically called prompt caching. That helps save a whole bunch of money and speed because if some people are asking the same question over and over, well, why wouldn't you just cache that prompt? Another thing around this is you don't have to use a very large, expensive model to do a lot of different things. One of the reasons why I showed you some of the models I run is because I actually run, when I am building applications, I don't want to burn a whole bunch of tokens. So I actually run, for example, Qwen3 Coder or GLM Flash locally on this laptop or on my Mac Studio, and I can just run these tests over and over again, and it's reasonably fast, right? So, you know, we do have to think about how we save money on this, and if some of you have been following along what's going on in the marketplace, GPUs have actually gotten more expensive rather than less expensive. If you yourself or if you have a child that wants a gaming PC, the price of GPUs has shot through the roof, and also the price of memory has doubled in the last 3 months. So go look and see how much 32 or 64 gigs of RAM for your PC or whatever at home costs now compared to 3 months ago. Basically, this stuff is not going to get more, it's not going to get cheaper anytime soon because everything, the cost of GPUs and building out data centers, everything has gotten very expensive. Okay, so finally, I'm going to close on this. AI native apps require continuous iteration, refining prompts, updating models, and adjusting data pipelines, and also continuous monitoring and logging to make sure the AI performance, what I mean by AI performance here is not how fast it's running necessarily, but the accuracy of the responses that you get. And accuracy means, does it fit into this percentage of correctness when you ask it a question? Or maybe that's a simplistic thing, but when it does something. Okay. All right. So we're at the end here. Again, one of the reasons why Azul is super interested in this area is that all these applications, not all of them, but all these corporate applications, which, you know, your Java developers, you have JVMs that you're building Spring Boot or whatever apps on, you're going to continue using them, and you should. You don't need to go to Python to do the AI app building part. For the part in the middle, which I talked about, which is fine-tuning a model or doing very specific things around the low-level model creation or adjustments, yes, you probably still need to use Python for that, for building AI native applications or AI applications in general. You can still do everything on the JVM. You saw Josh do a demo of Spring AI. It works great. I build almost all my stuff using Spring AI. And again, I can send you the code for those 2 sample apps that I have. Okay. And then I talked about code inventory, get rid of your dead code before you start migrating your apps, adding AI and other things like that. Okay. And of course, there's the obligatory best JVM in the galaxy. And with that, I'm going to bring this last slide up. Where is it? There it is. Right. So there's a bunch of other stuff we didn't talk about, but that's okay. We're at time. And Steve, we have 1 minute for questions. Should we take questions or?
Yes, we didn't have any online.
Oh,
Any
okay.
questions in the room? Yes.
That queries the database.
It's Karen talking, I'm holding his hand.
Oh, yeah.
The application that queries the database, if it gets 999 out of 1,000 correct, but it gets 1 wrong, is that okay for clients? Are they fine with that? At what point are they okay with it?
Yeah. Okay. So the question is if your AI-enabled application gets 1,000 requests and 1 of those is wrong, right? Is that okay? I don't have an answer because I don't know what the application is. Okay. So if the application is take this amount of money out of my bank account, the answer is hell no, right? But if the answer, if the question is, at what time is Josh Long speaking at this conference tomorrow? That might be okay, right? So it's all use case dependent. This is when in a few slides previously, I said that there is this part right here, right? This is essential, right? Monitoring and logging. Okay, so there's something in the AI development space, and Spring AI implements this, 2 very specific things: evals and guardrails. Right, so you would create a guardrail that if a response comes back, you check to make sure that it fits within some kind of guardrails, so that you do not give a bad response that is, again, depending on the use case. If it's a bank transfer, has to be 100% correct all the time. Probably don't want to use AI for something like that, or at least have great guardrails that will always catch something that is wrong. Okay, so.
Question from the humans online.
Okay.
One is just, can you share those projects again as examples? So if you put the project page up while I ask the second question, that would be great.
Yep.
And then the second question is, how do you test a non-deterministic system or application?
Okay. So the question is how can you test a non-deterministic system or application? That's a great question. Okay, so and I already mentioned this. The unit test, of course, which the Confbot has a bunch of unit tests around it. I'm working on building out evals and LLM as a judge. So the evals, it's a very specific thing in the AI universe, which is relatively new. This is what makes is fun the right word when you talk about working in AI? Yeah, it's what makes this fun, because things are changing so fast in how we build AI applications that literally 3 or 4 months ago, evals were not a thing, or evaluations. The Spring AI introduced the AI evaluation framework like 3 or 4 months ago. Is Josh still here? No, he would know exactly when. 3 or 4 months ago, so it's relatively new, if memory serves correct. But the answer is, You have to test the crap out of it, and we have ways to do it. Those ways will change and get better over time. Currently, we use something called evaluations or evals, and also guardrails. And yes, it's not like querying a database and you always get the exact right result when you query a database, because a database is built on category theory and relational algebra. So when you query the data, it uses mathematics, so you get an exact answer. That is not artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI. Generative AI is inherently a non-deterministic system. It uses probability to tell you what the next token should be. It looks like it's really smart. It uses something called perceptrons, which make that seem even smarter. When you use it, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's because of the technology behind it, but inherently it is probabilistic, and you do have to test for it. Okay. All right. We done? All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Pratik. I thought that last question there sort of summed up the whole AI thing. Because as engineers, this whole, how do you test it? How do you test a non-deterministic system? That's our new life. Okay, so Sam has some more things to say.
Just one or two things before we let you go. One is huge thank you to both our speakers, even though the one human ran away.
Yeah, you just ran off.
He's already at the cocktail bar.
Oh, so Josh said to anybody who's online and here that he's fixed the GitHub repo, so it should all work now.
Woo!
Or worse than effect.
And then for the humans online, we're live streaming AI Native DevCon, which I think Alan told you all about. So you can join us for that if you can't be in person. And for the humans in the room, we have this great event space. So we host things like almost every night, as long as I, keep a social life. So next week we've got something on skills and how to create your own skills. We've got an event coming up, which is more, I suppose, for the London JavaScript community. But someone's going to show how they do 400 pull requests in a week, and he hasn't written a line of code in 3 months. And this is production-ready code. They're building. It's my teammate actually building Tessl without actually touching anything. So if you want to see AI as something in production, come to that. And then we've got a whole bunch of other stuff that I can't think off the top of my head. But we pretty much host a bunch of stuff here every night. So it wasn't hard to get here. Go to tessl.io/events, and I try put the events. So we've got AI for the rest of us next week, DJ speaking about something. Anyways, look at the events page and just come hang out with me. And I'll have more pizza next time because it ran out.
I mean, this is AI Central for London, isn't it?
Good job, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome.
Are we done?
We're done.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I might kick you out in a few minutes, but other than that, have a good night.
Yeah. Thank you.